Nicki versus everyone, because obviously Nicki's in the house stirring drama and acting like she doesn't know what's going on. Let's start off talking about Nicki Minaj, who is going through it because she is at home with her husband, Kenneth Petty. Kenneth Petty is on probation because he violated his probation by not registering as a sex offender when he moved into Nicki Minaj's home in Calabasas. And so Nicki Minaj basically is at home with her husband. Girl, the thing is, I can readily acknowledge that Nicki Minaj was a cultural reset. She is somebody who changed or evolved, rather, the landscape of Black female rap. But she wasn't the first to do it, and she's not the last to do it. She is one of the significant icons in this field, but I feel like in real time, we are watching her dilute her legacy because she's in the house bored. If I was to give my shadiest of shady opinions, I think once you hit 35 and you start thinking about having kids in what is considered late in life, do people not also think about the genetics of who they're having children with? Because Kenneth Petty, to me, does not at all meet the attractiveness of Nicki Minaj. I do think, to give her her flowers, Nicki is a naturally pretty woman, right? Like, aesthetically, she is a very good looking woman. Kenneth ain't got no bottom lip. And then what does he bring to the table? I think it's interesting, in this discussion of like marrying up and making sure you have the right partner, Nicki Minaj has really partnered with somebody who's like physically unattractive and then like has nothing positive to offer. And I do understand the position she has in the industry and sort of why she might be inclined to be resentful, but I don't understand why she is holding on to the resentment and dabbling in it so strongly. Because yes, she was an early arriver to the current landscape of Black female hip hop, right? Maybe not, or maybe she's the one that created the current landscape that we live in that when she came out in the early 2000s, and she was a young Black woman rapper out of Queens, it was still in an era where Black women had to sign to majority Black male production companies. And she was oftentimes the only Black female rapper on the main stage with like Lil Wayne and Drake and the whole other Young Money crew. And we weren't yet at this point where we've arrived now, where a lot of the young Black women rappers are able to keep entourages of other Black women of color, queer folk, to have more diverse entourages. Nicki Minaj's handlers, if they weren't Black men, were white people. And I think she went through a period where I don't know how much of this was, I can't say that it was entirely the industry, right? I was in the music industry at the same time that Nicki Minaj arrived, right? And so one of the things that I've talked about and why I did not stay in the music industry is that because the early 2000s were incredibly difficult for Black women. And this discussion of like sisterhood and this performance of sisterhood didn't really exist in the industry at that time. Like, women would throw you. I had some nasty shit happen to me in the industry. Women would be very quick to throw you under the bus. There was no any aspect of the Me Too movement existing at that point in time where if you were sexually assaulted, if you any sort of your bodily autonomy, that boundary was crossed, there was absolutely no recourse that you could take for addressing that. And so, yeah, Nicki Minaj came into the industry at a very volatile and rough time for Black women. And so I understand this feeling of I did it all alone, and I did it so against all these systems and all these people who didn't truly have my back. But like, why, if you're going to hold on to the resentment and you're going to project that resentment onto other Black women in the music industry, why does she not put any of that fault or blame on the Black men who have largely perpetuated the harm that she has experienced in the music industry? She is extremely forgiving of men. So I'm going to try and go down what has happened with Nicki Minaj recently on Twitter. Nicki is very much so like a nice, nasty person. Why I feel like we are watching her in decline is because, yeah, she's basically at home with her husband who cannot leave the house. They posted their Halloween pictures and you can see his ankle monitor through his pants, and it is sending me. Can you see the man's ankle monitor? No, abolish the criminal justice system, but also, like, Nicki, what are we doing? Girl! You were in the house and letting this man, like, essentially drive you crazy, because you can't go on tour. You can't do the sort of thing that the rest of your contemporaries are doing, even with touring. Because, yeah, you have a young child. Why can't she leave that man at home and, like, take the baby with her? Or maybe they have a dynamic where he doesn't want the child to leave if he's not coming along. Who knows? There's something weird happening in that household. And I feel like it is absolutely impacting the way Nicki Minaj engages and how much she has leaned into utilizing and weaponizing her stannery with the Barbs. Nicki is giving lonely person. You cannot act a bit oblivious and then she herself requested Tasha K to come in on a live.
The house, you know what I'm saying? Tiana had to sell that house.
Huh?
Remember all them damages to that house?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. Nah, so you know the house that Tiana Taylor sold. You know Megan was renting that house. And that's why her and EJ fell out. You know what I'm saying? That's just something we talked about on the live. Okay. They can come watch it. But what you got going on though? What new song you got coming out now?
Yo, am I confused? Is everybody else confused? Tasha, you said was talking about Tiana Taylor?
I was talking about Tiana Taylor on my live stream on YouTube. You had asked.
I know, but what did you say?
What I said was, damn, I got to go through the commentary again. What I said was Tiana Taylor sold the house that she rented to Megan Thee Stallion. Okay. And so, of course, we're going to say allegedly, just in case some details are wrong. However, that was the same house that Tiana pretty much had to beg for money from because Megan, the house got vandalized by her people from her showing the house off and stuff like that. So they messed up Tiana's, They messed up Tiana's front yard, backyard. You know what I'm saying? And that Megan rent the house and shit. It's a whole breakdown. So I ain't got the details in front of me, but it's on my live stream. So that's what we was talking about. We weren't talking about you tonight. You ain't break the internet.
Oh,
you break it every day.
Xavier Minaj,
you break it every day.
Abort the mission.
Nicki would have a fit if any other Black woman rapper called a gossip blogger who she had to take to court and sue for libel. Tasha K is indebted to Cardi B for like $4.5 million because Cardi B went through great lengths to try to negotiate, to try to moderate, and then finally, because Tasha does, and clearly even after the judgment, Tasha does not know how to keep her mouth shut because now she's, promoting this story about Meg Thee Stallion ruining Tiana Taylor's home, and then somehow that being the cause for why her and EJ don't work together anymore. But like, to make up this narrative about, in the face of Meg Thee Stallion's home being robbed for over $500,000 or a couple $100,000 worth of jewelry and material goods being stolen out of Meg Thee Stallion's house, and then you get on a megastar's live and promote this alleged story when you still owe another megastar a couple $1,000,000 for the defamation suit that you lost. If the roles were reversed and like Cardi B had, I don't know what people like Wanna, who got let go from like somebody who Nicki Minaj has gotten fired from like the Shade Room or something, and they came on and then like Cardi B brings them on the live and then acts like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? Oh, what are you like? Come on. You're met like this. Like, girl, all you are is at home. All you can do is scroll. You like there's no way you're unaware of the optics and what this is, because you would be the number one most offended person if the roles were reversed. You have gone after other black women for far less. It's Nicki Minaj's live, and Nicki Minaj sent a request to Tasha K. So if you go back and watch Tasha K's live, Tasha K is doing a live, and she's like, oh, I gotta stop because Nicki Minaj is asking me to come on her live. Like, come on. This is it's just foul behavior. And so then we spiral into like these back and forths where there was a particular night of Nicki Minaj engaging with her audience, and Cardi tweets, what are the signs of someone having a manic episode? I don't believe in diagnosing people over the internet, but girl. The fact that y'all believe that dopey fucking lie, laugh my ass off. That's exactly why I'm checking on everything immediately from now on. Who passed on what? This isn't even the first song Carol sent me. I asked for another one, song after song. The first option, and when she sent this, I loved it. Like, that's also another thing. You have no problem collaborating with white women, but like you throw up all these requirements from your actual contemporaries. Thinking about what I should buy the barbs with all this extra money and all these new businesses I'm about to own. Oh, this is when she was agreeing to antagonize Kim. And this is in response to like Kim saying that she was going to file a lawsuit. Now, let's hope the people you guys are doing all this dirty work for love you enough to hire top-notch lawyers for you to pay your bills. Once I own your blogs, your shows, these IG pages y'all tried to protect so bad. Couple of artists in the folder too. I'll own your publishing. Duds. Why are you on the internet incentivizing your barbs to harass people? It really popped off a couple days later when it became about Lotto. Nicki Minaj should be, in theory, upset at the Grammys, the Recording Academy, for the way her song is being positioned for a nomination in the pop category, and she is not in the female rap category. And Nicki makes a remark about, well, if Super Freaky Girl is pop, isn't Big Dick Energy pop? But here goes the thing again. Nicki Minaj understands, if I don't like you, if you and I have had some private issue behind the scenes, you didn't support me in the way that I felt I should be supported, you did something to malign me, don't mention my name. Why do you not hold that same standard when dealing with other artists? So as it comes out, Lotto and Nicki had private discussions, and I think from the back and forth, it was pretty clear that Lotto wasn't entirely happy with the way the conversation went. You know you don't have good blood with this person. Why bring them up? So these tweets might be a little out of order, but this is the most recent subtweet in question. But I'm finna start from the beginning, you 40-year-old bully. Like, Nicki will tweet shit, will like shit, and engage the barbs because they are on it like this, and then delete it 10 minutes later and be like, oh, I never said anything. Why you mad? Unfollowed. Ugh, barbs. I just said stop putting that dud on my timeline. I know you're defending me, but leave that dud on TikTok. Let me think. Dud spun the timeline, barbs. I've ignored countless subtweets since March, and instead addressed you in the DM. You're asking why I didn't speak up in your defense. It's the same answer I gave you when you asked why I didn't congratulate you. You're literally older than my mom trying to bully me. And then initially, I think what actually sparked this is that Nicki Minaj shared the private DMs between her and Lotto. And she referred to Lotto as, this Karen has probably mentioned my name in over 100 interviews. She said she waited in line for Pink Friday with her Barbie chains on, pink bangs, pink hair. But today, scratch off because lottery. Sure, girl. Scratch off decides to be silent rather than speak up for the black woman she called her biggest inspiration. Okay, and so she shares a screenshot. And I actually think the fact that Lotto went to her DMs and said, I agree with you. However, because of where we left off, I don't think you need to bring my name song up to prove your point. Look, Lotto is like 22, 23. She's extremely young. I don't expect a whole lot from her, and I actually think that was as respectful as you can be when you're essentially telling a pop superstar to keep my name out your mouth. You know, because girl, you of all people should understand, we're not good. we have not left off on a good note. Why are you talking about me in comparison? And it's like, Nicki, you should be wise enough for all your experience in the industry to keep but she can't stay mad at men. She has to bring women into it. And so Lotto says, first of all, I text you because I didn't want to do the internet shit with someone I looked up to. Just like the first time I DM'd you asking about your ongoing subtweets. I wanted to speak up because, like I said, I do agree, but the way you going about it seems malicious, especially bitter how we left off. And also because, the barbs have no sense. So soon as you create some sort of grievance between you and another rapper, the barbs are going to latch on to that. And then everything about that other rapper is going to be turned into a negative. And so every time they get online, there is and the barbs are ferocious. Nicki is claiming it was an actual person on TikTok, a creator, not even an artist. I'm sure the barbs have receipts. So again, you're weaponizing the barbs. You're encouraging them to get involved in this argument. It goes to show she made up these subtweets in her head simply because she sent me 2 songs I declined to do features on. They all do this. See next tweet. Now, this is Nicki is are Nicki and Azalea Banks much different? Somebody explain to me the difference between Nicki and Azalea, because this is what it's giving. It is giving bipolar bully. And I mean, that's an ableist statement, so I'm gonna own that because I can't excuse this bad behavior, this egregiously very aware bigotry and bad behavior. I can't excuse it as a facet of mental health, because then that's creating this idea that anybody who deals with any sort of mental health issue is then inherently crazy. I don't think that people that are dealing with bipolar disorder are naturally crazy people. I think there is people that are dealing with personality disorders such as bipolar, borderline personality disorder, DID, all these disorders, who are great members of society. But what happens when you mix these sort of, you've gone through a certain amount of trauma or whatever has happened to get you to this mental break, but then you inject that with a level of power where nobody can tell you no. And it's the power. It's not the mental health disorder. It is the power. That's the issue here. And, Nicki makes this dig at Lotto that she thought she was at least 35. Lotto doesn't look old at all. Here's a picture of Lotto. Lotto has talked about being a barb. Here's her when she's 12. Lotto is one of the current rappers who I really, really, really enjoy watching as they ascend in the music industry, because they do have some wherewithal, right? I can appreciate that not only did they change their name from Mulatto, but they acknowledge, even in their most recent interview with Carisha on Carisha Please podcast, when Carisha kind of asked that question and set up the opportunity for Lotto to really dog the audience out about bullying her about her name, that she acknowledged that, I had to hear the critiques and think about it and, realize what was wrong with that name, even though it was a name that was given to me by other people, still realizing, what was wrong about it. Again, instead of being mad at the Recording Academy, her argument goes from, why is the Recording Academy putting me in the pop category, to specifically Lotto has said that her song is pop. So if you're going to do me like that, you need to do her like that. If I feel like I'm being dragged down, instead of telling you, course correct, or talking about the inherent racism in music genres, which I have a video on Patreon with Dr. Kwame. We talk about music, and I recently reposted that video maybe 2-3 months ago, where we talk about, in response to Tyler the Creator's critique of the Grammys, Igor won in the best rap category, but he felt like Igor also qualified outside of rap music, in that white people can do all sorts of music and they'll get put in the correct category, but black people always get put in the urban category. So we talked about the history and the baked in racism in the music industry and how that's translated to the categorization of pop music. And so all that to say, there's a very thorough argument that Nicki can present in her case, but instead of pointing her finger at the Recording Academy, she quickly takes a legitimate argument and veers it towards another black female artist. And it's if you are really an icon, if you really have that much power and dominance that you feel like you need to have every single black female rapper who comes into this arena, that they need to bow down and kiss the ring, why don't you enact that power and influence against the conglomerates.